I appreciate lichens, mosses, trees, deer, wildlife, bobcat, wolves. I appreciate soil microbes. I appreciate the mycorrhizal relationship between trees and fungi. I appreciate and value all of it, especially the wildlife component. And I want to protect it. I want to fight for it. It's no good to like love a plant. You got to defend it.
Welcome to the Herbalist Hour. This is where community gather, merging the power of people and the flowers, the sweet and the bitter to the salty, the sour. Oh, mommy, it's time for the Herbalist Hour.
Welcome back to the Herbalist Hour. Today I'm joined by Shawn Donnille. Shawn is the owner of Mountain Rose Herbs, which some of you may or may not know. I've worked there for 11 years. So
Thank you for that, Mason.
Yeah, I've been really excited to do this interview for some time now. So Shawn, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Yep, it was 11 magnificent years. we miss you terribly, Mason. You were by far an iconic representation of the company. Like, people associated Mason and Mountain Rose as being synonymous with one another. And then when you left, I was like, we're going to lose our face. Like, Mason is the face of Mountain Rose. What are we going to do? And I'm not trying to flatter you. Man,
you are, though.
But we still don't have a replacement face. And to some extent, my face was used a little bit, but it wasn't as prominent as yours. You were going to all the conferences and all the festivals. You were setting up for all the booths and all the shows, and you did an amazing job, and we all miss you very much. But we're also really proud of what you're doing. You're doing some amazing stuff.
Thank you. I was actually going to save this for the end of the show, but I might as well just say it now. You and Mountain Rose Herbs, but you specifically, the entire time that I was building HerbRally on the side, you were, some people were like, you know, how did they react when you were building this business on the side? And I always tell them they were so supportive. In fact, proud of me when I left. You told me specifically that you were proud of me when I left. And I was like, that just kind of speaks to the character of you and just the way that Mountain Rose Herbs supported me, not only through my job, which I loved, but then also just kind of my side gig too. So,
yeah, no, absolutely. I know that everybody has a shelf life at Mountain Rose, and all of the employees that I work with intimately, like you, I want to see you all do greater things.
Yeah.
I appreciate you at Mountain Rose, and I appreciate harnessing your skills, if that's what you want to call it, but I would actually be ashamed of you if you spent the rest of your life at Mountain Rose. You're built for bigger things. But yeah, Mountain Rose, we've always had a very transparent relationship with our employees who are entrepreneurs at the same time. So we do what's known as solstice gifts, and we try to put a priority on buying gifts from employees who have side gigs. It could be somebody who silk screens bandanas. It could be somebody who makes body care products. But I like to encourage entrepreneurship with our staff.
Yeah, I love it. And you of course know this, but I ordered the solstice gifts for many years. So, they're always some of my favorite gifts to receive every year. So, so the actual first question is a doozy, and it is, what is the best ride at Disneyland and why?
Oh my God. Duh. Easy. Haunted Mansion.
Wow.
Absolutely the Haunted Mansion. Oh my God. Without a doubt. I'm not an adrenaline junkie. I don't need fast rides. For me, I went to Disneyland on my first birthday, and I've been there 1,137 times since then.
Is that exaggerated?
A little bit. Okay. But if I were to take a guess, I'd say 800 to 1,100
Wow,
times.
okay.
And because I live 10 minutes away from Disneyland,
Sure.
we were seasonal pass holders, which meant we can go on a Tuesday night for 3 hours.
Wow.
We can go on a Saturday afternoon. We could go to the park anytime we wanted. And being a young teenager, we would hang out there on Friday and Saturday nights. And all of my friends worked at Disneyland. I've been backstage. I know how the parades work. I know how the rides work. But to go back to Disneyland, as a young child, I knew then that I was born to build experiences through either marketing or creative design, like interior design.
Sure.
I love creating experiences, and I love what Walt Disney did. He created authentic experiences. For him, it wasn't about adrenaline or roller coasters or moving really quickly. It was about taking your time and being submerged in an experience that was designed by professionals to convince you it was absolutely real. So I always had a morbid curiosity as a kid. So I remember the first time I went in the Haunted Mansion, I was probably like 4 or 5, and I remember it. And I remember being absolutely mesmerized by the mysterious, dark, evocative qualities of this. And I remember even telling myself then, I'm going to have a Haunted Mansion. I don't know how, or I don't know what I'm going to do. But to fast forward, in 2003, I actually created a 1,100 square foot library that was modeled after the Haunted Mansion. So I had the same moving ravens, I had the flicker flame candelabras, I had the spooky embossed wallpaper, I had all the cobwebs, and it was genuine. And the Register Guard, I don't know if you ever saw that, Mason, but the Register Guard did a 4-page article on this library.
I didn't see it.
It was way back in the day.
2003.
It was that's when I built the library, but I think the article was maybe 2006, 7, so it was before your time.
Okay.
But to answer your question, it's a Haunted Mansion. Yeah.
I've been to Disneyland, and shamefully, I don't think I went in the Haunted Mansion, so I'll have to change that next time I go.
I can't believe you just said that out loud. Seriously?
Seriously.
Okay, what's your favorite ride?
So Disneyland, probably Splash Mountain.
Oh yeah.
That's at Disneyland, right? Yeah. I really enjoy it because it's kind of just calm the whole time, and then at the very end it puts you down a steep.
You get a little adrenaline.
Yeah, which I really like, and honestly, like I'm more of a, I guess, Universal Studios type of person.
Oh, you're an adrenaline guy.
Yeah, I really like. We actually all went to Universal in Florida last year, and the Hulk ride was. I'll go with the Hulk ride.
All I can say, double, emphatically.
Yeah.
Fuck that. No way. We went there. Me and Dan, we went there 2 months ago.
Okay.
And we did the whole round. We did Walt Disney World, Animal Kingdom, and Universal Studios. And even Dan said, "Oh hell no! Oh, I'm not going on that fucking ride." and it like roller coasters upside down, extreme speed.
Yes.
Not for me. That's not my thing. That's why I love the OG Disneyland, because the rides go 2 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And it's all experiences. Like, I think Pirates of the Caribbean would be my second favorite ride, because of the amount of imagination and the speed at which that ride goes.
Yeah.
It's kind of like asking somebody, do they like to hike and botanize, or do they like to mountain bike?
Uh-huh.
Mountain bicyclists, if you think about it,
Sure.
they don't see shit.
Yeah.
They're barreling down roads. They're not taking in the scenery.
Right.
They don't even know what they're looking at.
Yeah.
When you hike or you walk or you stroll in the woods, you take in your surroundings and you botanize.
Yeah.
And I applied the same modality to theme parks.
Yeah, I could see kind of a through line for your life. It all was starting to come together for me. I should have anticipated that Haunted Mansion was going to be your choice.
I'm actually surprised we never talked about that before.
I don't think we have, because I was really excited to ask you, because I know you love Disneyland. So.
Oh, I'm reading numerous books. They're in the living room. I got to show you on the history of Disneyland.
Really?
And I just recently bought a book on the history and creation of the Haunted Mansion ride. And
Wow.
I'm in the middle of that right now. I love the Haunted Mansion. But anyways, stop talking about Disneyland.
Sure. I knew it was going to be a long and winding conversation if I brought it up, but I had to know. But I kind of do want to stick in your childhood and kind of like your formative years. Like looking back, connecting the dots, does it kind of all make sense? What position you find yourself in now? Like, does it all kind of make sense? What kind of kid were you? It does sound like, just kind of briefly touching on, like, say, the mercantile, you really have created an experience there. Like walking into it, you're almost like bringing Mountain Rose Herbs to life. Is it kind of all like I'm trying to ask? What were you like as a child, and how did that kind of weave your way into your career through Mountain Rose Herbs?
Yeah, well, like I said, Disneyland had a profound impact on me as a child, but ultimately being an only child. So being an only child and having a very active imagination, and I was a latchkey kid. And for your younger viewers, most people don't know what that means. But what that means is that it's a young child who has to let themselves in the house after school and usually feed themselves. Did you know that, Mason?
I've heard the term. I've never known what it meant.
Yeah.
I just always kind of like, oh yeah, sure.
Very
All
popular
right.
in the 80s.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was a latchkey kid.
Yes.
So after school, I'm 7, 8, 9, and I would there was a key under the mat. I would let myself in. I would have to make my own food. I'd have to turn on the TV myself, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. Matter of fact, I hated it when my parents came home. Yeah. But I preferred being alone. I had a very active imagination. I was always playing by myself. And believe it or not, now and even then, I'm a very quiet person in my private life. I'm very quiet. When I'm amongst company like you guys, oh yeah, I'm a chatterbox. But my true nature is, no, I'd rather, you can ask Deanne. I could spend hours with Deanne and not say a single thing. That's my preference. I love to be in my own head, but I was like that as a little kid. And so Disneyland, being an only child, having an active imagination, and most importantly, punk rock.
Yes.
That had a huge impact on me. I'll never forget. I mean, I was always kind of into punk rock as like a 14, 15, 16-year-old. But I'll never forget, I went to Hollywood Sunset Strip. I bought an album that my friend said I absolutely had to buy. And it was a Crass record. And it was called Feeding of the 5,000. Holy shit. This is by far, even to this day, it was recorded in 1977. It was banned in England. Matter of fact, the recording company and the record pressing company wouldn't even press it because the first song was a poetic vindictive against Jesus Christ. Wow. And it was called Reality Asylum. And the record company said, I'm sorry, but my staff won't press this record. They absolutely refuse to. But anyways,
yes.
the political fire in this album just... I listened to this album and I was reading the lyrics and I went, holy shit, the world is fucked up.
Yeah.
Nobody gave me the memo and I need to change this. Yeah. And I became an activist. I read the lyrics, listened to the album, and the next day I became an activist. And I was 15 at the time. And I've been an activist ever since. So all of this, from Disneyland to an imagination, to being an only child, to punk rock, anarchist punk rock in particular, and Crass in particular, that all kind of navigated its way into Mountain Rose, and that's why Mountain Rose is a highly imaginative company. We create unique experiences, and we're rabble rousers. Mountain Rose is considered an activist organization, and all of that goes back to those few things that I just mentioned to you.
I've got other questions surrounding that, but I have to know: did you ever buy the original record? Since, like, because I know you like to collect certain things, but do you have that record on vinyl?
Mason. You should know me better by now. I am probably the world's most ravenous collector. Okay. I own everything. I have Revolutionary War buttons. I have Roman coins. I have stamps. I still have baseball cards. I have an antique rifle collection. I have a vintage punk rock record collection. Yes, I still have all the original records. At one time, I was sitting on about 3,000 records, but I ended up selling all of them except for the radical anarchist bands. Okay. Back then it was called anarcho-punk, or also known as UK 82, because in 1982 in the UK, that is when the country saw its highest volume of politically contentious music come out. And it was called, like I said, UK 82 or anarcho-punk. So yes, I still have all the original pressings, inclooing, I'm sorry, I'm going to digress a little bit, but this is where Amanda comes in, because she can edit all this shit out. So the first, so that the Feeding of 5,000, that first record, the song, like I said, was called Reality Asylum. And at the record pressing plant, the workers ended up playing it or listening to it, and this was in mid-production, and then they stopped the pressing of it and said, there is no way we're going to finish the pressing of this record. So Crass, in a moment of genius, said, fine, we're going to produce the record ourselves. And that's what Crass is known for, is DIY. And DIY became popularized by Crass in 1977. Not too many people know it. And they, even on their records, they were talking about DIY ethics. This is 1977. So they said, fuck it, we're going to do it ourselves. And they ended up creating their own record company called Crass Records. And they ended up pressing the record. But that first pressing, it was called, so they refused, in mid-production, they refused to release the album. So it was called The Sound of Freedom, and it was absolute silence. So until Crass got everything together, pressing plant and whatnot, they said, okay, fine, we concede. You can remove that first song. And they changed it to The Sound of Freedom. And it was just like 1 minute and 30 seconds of silence. A few months later, they formed their own record company, and it's called Reality Asylum, and it's the real deal. You should listen to it. Crass Reality Asylum. I mean, it gives you cold chills. It's that powerful.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't know any of that. I was more of a hip-hop head growing up, and I don't associate, say, like being infatuated with nature, with hip hop culture, I'm curious, does your love of nature and wilderness, does it kind of coincide with punk rock community or like culture? Is there?
Yeah, sadly, it does. But sadly, there isn't a lot of environmentalism coming from the punk rock community. They tend to focus on warfare, nuclear war, humanitarian issues, refugee crisis, political prisoners, housing, homelessness, urban issues. But there are actually quite a few, actually there's a tremendous amount of punk rock bands that either sing about environment or are wholly dedicated to environment. But as a whole, punk rock tends to be like socio-economic. That's their focus. But I'm starting to see things change a little bit these days with more modern punk rock bands. They're beginning to address environment.
I love that. Yeah, actually, we're working with a hip hop artist named Torin Frost. He's going to be doing a little like intro music for us, and yeah, I'm really excited because a lot of his raps are about the environment and nature and stuff like that. He's actually going to be coming out with a whole hip hop album based around herbalism, which will be really interesting.
What?
Yeah.
There's a local artist. Oh, what is his name? We Tribe. Marv Ellis. Marv Ellis and the We
I
Tribe.
knew him as a kid, actually.
Okay,
My parents were friends with his parents, so I went to his house when I was a child.
Oh, his music's amazing.
Yeah, he's great. Yeah,
but
he does
he's
a country fair and stuff.
Yeah. We saw him play live a couple of times,
Yeah.
but he tends to focus a lot on environment
Yeah.
and like living in the Northwest, like Northwest culture.
Totally.
I'm not a big hip hop fan.
Yeah.
I mean, I like political hip hop.
Sure.
But there's an artist by the name, I think his name is Mark Weebley.
I don't know that one.
And he has like a 6-minute song that is about how the planet is dying and climate change and nobody's caring. And I heard it for the first time just a few years ago, and I literally started crying a little bit.
Wow.
I got a little teary-eyed. I got all goosebumpy, and I was like, whoa. Yeah. I don't like a lot of his other music, but that one song in particular is quite powerful. I'm going to digress a little bit, but that was the one thing that kind of upset me about the herbal community as well. I remember going to my first herbal conferences damn near 25 years ago, and I'm coming in as a fresh, young, budding anarchist, environmentalist. I'm reading anarchist literature and environmental Earth First manuals and stuff like that. And I remember connecting with a lot of the herbalists and thinking to myself, okay, these people are plant people.
Yeah.
These people are going to be rabid environmentalists just like me.
Yeah.
And they weren't. None of them were. And I'm still kind of mildly disappointed in the herbal community because I don't see a lot of hardcore activism come out. And you ask any herbalist what their favorite environmental organization is, you know what the answer is going to be?
United Plant Savers?
You got it.
Yeah.
United Plant Savers. Not Earth First,
Right.
not Sea Shepherd, not Cascadia Wildlands, not Oregon Wild. It's like United Plant Savers.
Right.
Look, United Plant Savers is amazing. They're amazing.
Yeah.
But-
Mount Rose supports them a lot.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh no, we're
Yeah.
one of their largest corporate contributors.
Yeah.
Love UPS. We
Yeah.
got some amazing initiatives that
Yeah.
we're going to work on that I'll talk off camera about because
Sure.
I don't want to leak anything.
Yeah.
Great organization, but wanted and I want to see more come out of the herbal community because we all love plants.
Yeah.
But then fuck it, let's fight like hell for them.
Yeah.
And not support UPS, but like let's literally fight
Yeah.
like hell to protect these plants. But there's my digression.
All right. Well, you heard that. And we'll leave links to maybe specific recommendations you have to certain nonprofits and organizations of people of different organizations that people could support. So great idea.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too is that with herbalists, they develop a love affair, and actually I'm generalizing. This is very unfair, but they develop a love affair with like a particular plant.
Yeah.
You don't see herbalists generate a love affair. There are exceptions. First one that comes to mind is like Ryan Drum. Ryan Drum definitely has a whole ecological perspective of his love for plants. And like Ryan Drum, I do too. I appreciate lichens, mosses, trees, deer, wildlife, bobcat, wolves. I appreciate soil microbes. I appreciate the mycorrhizal relationship between trees and fungi. I appreciate and value all of it, especially the wildlife component. And I want to protect it. I want to fight for it. It's no good to like love a plant. You got to defend it, in my estimation. But
I love it. We love the digressions here, so no worries there. I do kind of want to get more into, like, say, your punk rock days, into first being aware of Mountain Rose herbs, and then kind of how you started channeling the direction of Mountain Rose herbs, like pre-Shawn as an owner, and then becoming one, and all that evolution.
yeah, I was an activist in Nevada City, California. Nevada City is So, it's so dreamy. It's awesome. I consider it my hometown. I wasn't born and raised there, but I definitely consider it my hometown. But in the early and mid 90s, when I was in Nevada City, there was a lot of activism coming out of Nevada City. And I'm not kidding. I think Nevada City was a small mountain community of 2,000 people. Super, super small, super tiny. Probably 200 or 300 of those people were punks. And punks and anarchists. Yeah. And there was this vibrant punk rock anarchist collective community coming out of Nevada City that I was there for. So we created two of our own collective anarchist organizations that focused on political prisoners and also focused on indigenous rights issues. And it focused on animal rights. We actually collected signatures in the state of California that put the banning of hunting cougar on the ballot. And we were actually gathering signatures. We got enough. It was put on the ballot, and it was voted on, I think, in 1996 or 1997. Wow. So ostensibly from 1996, the banning of cougar was now outlawed in the state of California. So we're doing all sorts of amazing stuff. But here I am, I'm 24, I'm 25. And the
Mohawk?
Oh, big time. Oh, yeah. Big time. Oh, yeah. No, my mohawk was always changing. But, work wasn't a priority for us. It was our activism. It was saving the planet and changing the world. That was our priority. But you get to, I once heard something that idealism is youth's final luxury. And it's kind of true, but not always. And we'll get into that later. But yeah, idealism is youth's final luxury. But it was true. I'm 24. I got a car payment. I got child support. I got bills to pay. And I couldn't make that on activist wages at all. And so I acrimoniously, because prior to that, I had two of my own businesses. So I've always been an entrepreneurial person. So you can imagine me, I'm 24, loads of tattoos and piercings, a mohawk, and I'm like, I got to get a job. Oh, you got to be kidding me. And I wasn't looking forward to it at all. Matter of fact, I didn't even know how to look for a job. Yeah. I mean, I knew I had to look in the newspaper. But anyways, I open up the newspaper, and there's a company called Mountain Rose Herbs, about 15, 20 minutes out of Nevada City, in a small community called North San Juan, and they're hiring a warehouse person. I'm like, great, I've done warehouse jobs, I can do that. But I remember I was super nervous for the job because I haven't been in an interview in like 10, 15 years. So I put my dreads, I had a dreaded mohawk at the time, so I put all my dreads in a beret, and I take all of my earrings and all of my spikes and studded shit off, and I wear a long sleeve shirt, and I button everything up, and it's July, and it's like 92 degrees. And I walk in for the interview, and it was Julie, Julie.
Yeah, of course.
And immediately I realized I didn't have to do this. Yeah. This woman's cool. Mountain Rose is cool. And Julie knew who I was because I was in the newspaper all the time. Right. She knew me. She knew my girlfriend Rainey because Rainey ran for city council under the Green Party platform. She had a purple trihawk, 27 piercings. She was an indigenous woman. She was 19. She was Ganasataki Mohawk. So it made the news. Yeah. And I was always with her on the campaign trail. So Julie knew exactly who I was. And that's when I realized I didn't have to hide anything. So Mountain Rose totally accepted me for who I was. Julie was and is an amazing person. Yeah. She did a lot of work with EPIC out of Humboldt County. It's an Environmental Protection Information Center. It's kind of like the Cascadia Wildlands of Humboldt County. Okay. And she did work for Earth First as well. So Julie earned some brass with Earth First, and so did I. So immediately we connected beautifully. So I get hired, and this is 1999, and I'm hired in a warehouse. And she didn't have the time or the resources or the energy to be the Mountain Rose that we are now. So even back then, we weren't recycling paper. We weren't recycling cans. We weren't composting all of the returned herb that we couldn't sell. And I was berating her for this. And so immediately, I think within months of starting at Mountain Rose, I was already beginning to collect all of our waste. I was beginning a composting program. And Julie was wildly supportive. It's just, she's a business owner, small business owner. It's like idealism is, his final luxury, and she just didn't have that luxury. But yeah, we'll talk about that later because I do want to dispel that motto because it's not entirely true. You know, during the early formative years of a company, you have to be really focused. And so when I came on and started working at Mountain Rose, I must admit I put my activism slightly aside. Not completely, because I obviously created and adopted a strict organic only policy for herbs, began recycling, began composting, but I wasn't a hardcore activist within the organization because I had to focus on the company. I had to focus on growing it and expanding it, and we were growing. I built the first website, everything took off. And this was in 1999.
Yeah, wow.
It's really hard to imagine what most companies didn't have a website in 1999. Even bigger, I think Amazon came on the scene in 98. So eBay was, I think, came on in like 95 or 96. You know, so we weren't that far behind these major companies. And once that happened, everything went batshit crazy. And we adopted what's known as a first mover advantage. And we were the first mover on that and so much more. But it took the herbal industry years to finally catch up with us and go, shit, maybe we should sell online. But we were already there. We were already doing a really good job. So from 1999, when I started at Mountain Rose, until about 2004, that's 4 or 5, all I could focus on was the growing and the expanding of the company. But 2004, 2005 comes around, and the organization has mature legs. It has the foundational support of Julie. And I have pretty strong staff in place. I'm like, okay, I'm going to start focusing on the activism of this company. And that's when I started working on Zero Waste Program, paid time for community involvement, creating the Mountain Rose River Project, and it just spirals from there. But I had a little more leisure to focus on that. And I must admit, I haven't gone back since. So for the better part of 15, 16, 18 years now, that's what I primarily focus on, is the mission-driven principles of Mountain Rose and really pushing boundaries and creating new initiatives that make people go, holy shit, that's amazing. I can't even compete with that. Even if I wanted to, I can't compete with that. And that's why I said off camera, I want to talk about some amazing concept. I got to give Thomas credit. It was all his idea.
Really?
But this shit is going to floor you, Mason.
Oh, I can't wait.
No, it's amazing.
All
Yep,
right.
yep. So
I'll let them know in the next solo episode what everything you told me about.
Yeah. Luckily for you and everybody else, I know you're full of shit.
Honestly, one of the things that drew me in prior to even working at Mountain Rose Herbs, even just drew me in as a customer of Mountain Rose Herbs, was all of the dedication to sustainability. And after working there for 11 years, you know, I know that it's legit. This actually, we could keep going down the story route, but this does kind of segue nicely into the fact that you just won APA, that's the American Herbal Product Association's Environmental Steward Award, which I was going to ask you, is this the first time you won the award, or is this the second time you won the award?
It's funny because we think that next year, so I think there's a total of 6 APA awards. There's like Herbal Industry Award, Herbal Leadership Award, Herbal Innovation Award, Environmental Steward Award. There's a total of 6 awards, and we've already won 2 of them. Next year, we're hoping we're going to get 3. And I told Steven, who is on the board of APA, and our QA/QC director, I said, I want to win all 6. I mean, granted, we could spend 10 years doing it, but I want to win all 6.
Yeah.
But the Environmental Steward Award, I was exceptionally proud of that because APA, they've had their awards for decades, but they've only had the Environmental Steward Award for 2 years. This was the second year.
Oh, okay.
So last year was their first, that was their first award category for that, and it was Rodale.
Oh, perfect. Which you also support.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I was the second.
Yeah.
And that made me feel exceptionally proud. I got Rodale, who we admire tremendously, winning the first award, and then me as an individual winning the second one. I cried. I definitely cried because, and I must admit that I make it self-serving for Mountain Rose, but I always push everything to Mountain Rose. Whenever an award opportunity comes to us, I'm like, nope, give it to Mountain Rose. Nope, give it to Mountain Rose. Mountain Rose did this, not me.
I love that.
But Steven was really adamant. He said, Shawn, you know what? I have so much respect and admiration for you. I want you, as board president of APA, I want you to get this award. And I said, okay, all right, because I was trying to give it to Mountain Rose.
Right.
And I said, okay, great. I'll take the award. Yeah. And I remember Stephen telling me that prior to deciding on who wins the award, there was a Zoom call or conference call, and everybody's on the line. You got Herb Farm, you got Gaia, you got APA, you got UPS, and they're all deciding who should be nominated for the award.
Wow.
It was unanimous from all those companies. They all said, absolutely, we cannot compete with Shawn Donnille or Mountain Rose. He's got it. He is definitely the one. And I remember at the award ceremony, Erin from Banyan Botanicals, she was the one who voted for me, but she was also the one to introduce me. And she just gave a glowing introduction, not just of me, but of what we've done at Mountain Rose. And when somebody sits on a stage and outlines everything that we've done, it even boggles my mind. So I went up, I accepted the award. I choked up a little bit, which I hate because you know me, Mason. When I get on stage, like, boom, I'm on, like thunder. And I'm like, and I'm choking up and I'm pausing. I'm like, oh, get a hold of yourself, Shawn. It's ridiculous. But I got on the stage and I went, I love this award and thank you all. But the reason why I love this award so much is right there, Shawn Donnille. It has my name on it, not Mountain Rose. It's got my name on it. And I was, we probably have, you've been in our conference room, we probably have 30 awards of an environmental nature. Only 2 of them are to me. So I felt really proud.
Yeah, that's cheers to that.
Yeah, thank you.
You earned it. You know what I mean?
Thank you.
I didn't know that. I know you've won other Mountain Rose Herbs has won other environmental awards, and I've seen pictures of you holding them before. So I was like, oh, was this Shawn's first time? I didn't realize it was a new award, and that is quite special that you were the second recipient after Rodell. Yeah.
Oh, man.
That's pretty epic.
Yep, absolutely.
And kudos to Stephen for just kind of being a homie like that and telling you should accept it.
Yeah, so. He was really pressuring me on that one, and I conceded, and I'm glad I did because I'm not a megalomaniac, but I do like to be recognized.
Everybody does.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you put in so much hard work and dedication into everything you do. You're allowed, you're allowed to accept that and just own it and just like love yourself because of it. I think so.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I did want to say I was texting with Howie before our call, Howie Brownstein, and I was just asking him if he had any specific questions for you.
Oh dear!
And he actually gave me.
Oh no!
You know what? It's actually really sweet.
Okay, all right.
And
usually it's not.
Well, he did say that maybe there were some things off camera he would like to ask you about. Yeah. But I just wanted to say this. This is a quote. This isn't the question, but he goes, "There was a time when herb supply was limited due to high demand." And Shawn chose to only sell retail to herbalists and very small herbal businesses rather than simpler mega companies. Mm-hmm. He's responsible for authorizing decisions that affect the state of herbalism and herb trade worldwide. And he always chooses what's best for the earth over what's best for Mountain Rose Herbs. That's how he directs the company.
Oh my God, Howie! Thank you so much.
There was actually a lot of other stuff too.
Wow, I love Howie. Howie is right here in Eugene. He's our neighbor. We have interactions all the time. I have a genuine love for Howie. I only laughed earlier because we have a he's funny. We have a bantering relationship, and I thought he was going to throw like some crazy curveballs at me. But every now and then he has something like this. And thanks, Howie. That's true. Yeah. We do limit the amount that we sell, and as you know, like with Bloodroot in particular, we won't sell certain quantities because it's just not healthy to the plant communities that support it. And as you know, we're also developing cultivation programs for these endangered botanicals with a priority on creating cultivated acreage, not wild harvested. We're going to hire a firm that will audit all the products we sell for their environmental attributes. The petroleum and CO2 used to produce it, ship it to us, the packaging type, recycle, and we're going to have an environmental meter that will be truthful and third-party audited that will give a rating for every product we offer so people can buy conscientiously. Because there's certain things we sell that is in plastic that doesn't come from recycled sources. Like the first thing that comes to mind is like slippery elm capsules. So one, you got slippery elm, which is on the UPS at-risk list.
Sure.
We have to ship it from the Midwest. We package it in a plastic bottle that doesn't come from recycled sources. Yeah, we're going to be honest and transparent and say that only scores 2 out of 10 on the sustainability meter. And if it results in lost sales, I'm fine with that because we're telling people that instead of buying this, try this instead. So we're helping people make environmental decisions with their shopping behavior Two brilliant ideas.
I would say that's borderline revolutionary. Like that could
Right.
impact the way other businesses do.
Bam!
business.
I've never seen it done before.
Yeah.
That was really sweet of Howie. Wow. Thank you.
Yeah, and actually, he did say he brought up that you don't sell opalpanax and Oshila, even though you could to make money, but you refuse to sell herbs offered by pickers that don't meet your high standards. And I was going to say, can you speak to that? But I almost want to say we kind of already did.
Yeah. But no, I can speak to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the two things that come to mind was back in the late 90s, early 2000s, when I first started working at Mountain Rose, we weren't working with UPS too intimately. But I had read a report about, I think it may have been Herbalgram or something like that, about false unicorn root. And I must admit, I don't work with the plant, and I don't live with the plant, so I don't know the genus and species.
Sure.
But false unicorn root, and then also what was being traded as Beth root, which is Trillium.
Oh.
We were selling Beth root, and we were selling false unicorn root. And I remember reading these reports about the damaging consequences it was having to the wild populations. And I told Julie, I said, you know what, we really shouldn't be selling this stuff. Like, I read this article, I don't like the way it sounds. These plants are really sensitive. They only produce 1/10 of a gram of dried root material. It requires thousands of plants to produce 10 pounds of dried material, and we're selling 3 times that every year. Like, we gotta stop this. And she was like, yeah, absolutely. And that was 20 years ago, and nobody was really discontinuing products because they were being over-harvested. And we've continued that tradition since. And if we don't discontinue something entirely, then we limit the amount that we sell. Bloodroot is a first example. But the other thing that comes to mind with regards to protecting wild populations was that about 5 or 6 years ago, and to speak to our network of wild harvesters, we do strongly vet our wild harvesters. That community, the wild harvesting community, is riddled with crime, with complexities, with over-harvesting. And about 5 or 6 years ago, we had Oregon Wild, the Oregon State Police, and the Mackenzie River Trust contact us because they had and Oregon State Parks. They had realized that every single plant of Oregon grape and
I was
cascara
going to say Oregon grape
was stripped from Elijah Bristow State Park.
Wow.
So if you go to Elijah Bristow right now, there is not one. It could have regenerated, but there's no cascara and there's no Oregon grape. These guys went in, they had camps, tent camps, and they stripped the entire park of these things. Of course, Oregon State Police, Oregon State Parks, Oregon Wild, Mackenzie River Trust are like, call Mountain Rose. I severely doubt it was them, but they might be able to help.
Yeah.
And they did reach out to me, and I said, look, we have absolutely nothing to do with that. As a matter of fact, our cascara and our Oregon grape is certified organic with a permit on file with the Forest Service, and it comes from Reedsport. But I know who you need to contact. I have the man you need to contact, and his name is XXX, and his phone number is 541XXXX. And they did reach out to him, and I think he got busted. But I knew exactly who it was. So we do not work with those people at all. Absolutely, positively refuse to.
We just interviewed Jared Tarr with Friends of Buford Park, and he spoke to, they've had, is it called poaching? I have no idea.
You do call it poaching, absolutely.
Yeah, with Oregon grape on Mount Pisgah, as well as the Friends of Buford Park area. And so I didn't realize it was such a problem, but that's crazy that they stripped Elijah Bristow
of everything. I walk Elijah Bristow all the time.
Yeah.
Mountain Rose, we adopted the 4-mile stretch of the river trail. I'm there all the time. I could attest to the fact that I have not seen any Oregon grape or cascara since then. It's been completely stripped. And this goes back to wild harvested products in general. And I'm usually at odds with the wild harvesting community about this, but I am 100% unequivocally against wild harvesting, even on a personal level. Now, granted, there's some things, like I have 55 acres here. And you could look out there and you could probably see about 300 pounds of usnea. There are certain exceptions, but we try not to advocate wild harvesting because there are loads of people out there that are going out into the woods and removing as much as they possibly can, like Friends of Buford Park or Mount Pisgah or Elijah Bristow. And I don't want to promote that. I do not want to promote that. And we want to either encourage people to grow their own, and if they can't grow their own, then they rely on Mountain Rose that will try to grow everything we can that comes from wild harvested sources. But some things are really difficult. Black cohosh is super finicky. Bloodroot is exceptionally finicky. It requires certain soil types. But we're trying. And, I'd say in the last 20 years, we've probably moved 6 or 7 things to cultivation, including slippery elm. So we're really proud of that. But yeah, I'm against wild harvesting in every aspect.
Yeah, I've heard you say that before. And yeah, I'm just always impressed by Mountain Rose Herbs' dedication to. When I first started at Mountain Rose Herbs, I want to say the Oregon grape might not have been like the organically grown type, or maybe it has been for the past. No, maybe strides in that.
Yeah, maybe we started. No, yeah, that's about right, because you haven't been at Mountain Rose for, 2 years now?
Yeah.
I want to say it was like 2010, 2011, when we started working with a fellow who lives in Reedsport. When we asked him if he had a good working relationship with the Forest Service, and he said yes, and because at the time, Oregon Tilt, our certifier, was creating certification programs for managed non-forest timber products. Now, that's technicalese for wild harvesting.
Okay.
So Oregon Tilth, our certifier, was now beginning to develop certification for non-forest timber products. And we went, Usnea, Oregon grape, Cascara. And not only that, we'll work with the Forest Service, we'll get a permit, we'll have a paper trail. Our wild harvester has to keep a paper trail of the location, how much is taken, and that has to be submitted not only for certification standards, but also to the Forest Service as well. So now we're moving wild harvesting into kind of a sustainable, almost a cultivation program of sorts. Now,
Yeah, so not only has Mountain Rose Herbs been so supportive of, say, ethical wildcrafting practices or organically grown botanicals, I also want to give, I hope this isn't coming off too much as a Mountain Rose commercial, because really it's get to know Shawn better, but obviously it's kind of all intertwined. But the dedication to herbal education, you have been so supportive of herbal educators as long as I've known, for decades now. And I gotta ask, do you have a favorite rootstock memory?
Oh my God, good question. And then we'll get back to supporting the herbal community later.
Yeah.
Favorite rootstock memory? Oh my God, there were so many. I think, yes. Sorry, I had to think about it. But I also had to remove the bad memories. Okay. Because I must admit, the headlining band at the very end, oh my God.
We could take that out too.
Oh, you don't have to. They were terrible. They were terrible. They were terrible. Yeah. For some reason, I didn't listen to them when they were selected. Yeah. It was just described to me as kind of ravey techno music. I was like, awesome. That sounds awesome. Yeah. Oh, God, they were so bad. Oh, they were so bad. Yeah. I think my favorite memory... 2 of them come to mind. Yeah. One was the musical procession to the main stage.
Was that Samba Jah?
It was Samba Jah. Yeah. Good memory.
Yep.
And Brazilian street music with a beat marching. It had infused marching. It was 20 or 30 people. Yeah. And in the band, and they went around the entire camp,
which was huge,
and got this massive procession. Yeah. My room, I'm on the 2nd story balcony. Yeah. Right outside of the stage, and I'm watching this procession of almost 800 to 1,000 people come to the stage and to celebrate. Yeah. And rootstock, that was an awesome. I'm going to talk about rootstock a little bit. So,
please, and I did want to say it's kind of part of what you all do to support the herbal community. Yeah. It was an amazing community event. I'll never forget it. It totally made my life. In a lot of ways, you know what I mean?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Oh, my second favorite memory was, this is so. We hired Earth First.
I remember.
To provide tree climbing classes.
That's right.
To the children.
To the children. And
of course, it's just fun. We're just teaching kids how to climb trees and have fun. But it was that, talk about, that's an act of kind of subversion and sabotage. We're hiring a radical environmental group to teach young children how to climb trees, eventually to protect and defend them.
Sure.
But that, of course, wasn't what we were doing at Rootstock.
Right.
But I thought that was kind of cheeky. But Rootstock was my idea. I always wanted to put on an herbal conference. But like I said, I've always been a little disappointed with the herbal community because they haven't done enough to fight like fucking hell to protect the earth. Yeah. And I wanted to put on an herbal conference that infused environmental activism with herbal education. And all the proceeds were going to go to Cascadia Wildlands to protect and defend wild wolf conservation and wild wolf territory in the state of Oregon. Have you ever been to an herbal conference that does this?
No.
Never. Have you ever heard of an herbal conference that does this? So we hired, I think, 6, 7, 8 different nonprofits to booth there, be keynote speakers there, and to also give either educational walks or whatnot. So you have, but we also had all the herbal education as well. So you had Cascadia Wildlands talking about the importance of wolves within riparian corridors, while Howie Ramstein is talking about, the importance of sedatives or nutritive tonics and stuff like that. And it was so much fun. It was almost a $500,000 party, and we will probably never do it again because it cost us so much money. Because in true Mountain Rose fashion, I was like, no, I don't want a holding hands ceremony at the end.
Yeah.
I want live music with a massive stage and loads of lights. I want a vendor court. I want all of our herbalists to stay in cabins with full kitchens, and I want to stock it with bottles of wine and cheese, and all the herbalists were like, oh my God, we've never been pampered and treated at an herbal conference like this before. Usually we have to sleep outside or we have to sleep in some shitty cabin with 4 other people. Like I get my own chateau, and I'm like, hell yeah, you get your own chateau.
It was a perfect venue.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
And it was a great event. And Cascadia Wildlands still made money, even though it was a loss for us. And we got to talk about the importance of protecting and defending the earth, but in particular wildlife, because at the time, wolves was a trenchant issue in the state of Oregon. It was a hot button issue. And God, what a fun party.
It kind of reminds me of your earlier years when you were protecting, you said it was a cougar in your 20s, and you kind of carried that through to your work now.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't want to bore the audience with this. Well, no, actually, it's not boring.
They'll find it interesting.
Yeah, right. So as you know, Jonathan Manton, so we carried it over. And I was on the board of directors for Oregon Wild, and it's 2016. Yeah. And Rootstock was 2011. So 5 years later, I'm working with Oregon Wild, and I'm on the board of directors. Wolves is becoming a big issue. It's like the rural-urban divide. People are getting death threats. Mount Rose got death threats because of our support of wolves.
I remember that.
Yeah, it was intense. But I dug my heels in. Absolutely. I want to live in a state that has amazing wildlife. Who doesn't want to live with wild wolves and lynx and grizzly bear? And that shit is awesome. I come from Orange County. There's nothing in Orange County. It's devoid of life. Like, who doesn't want to live in a state with an abundance of amazing life? Well, except for that squirrel. That squirrel is just assaulting my bird feeder. But I live in harmony with all wildlife. So I'm on the board of directors for Oregon Wild. Our job during the legislative assembly at the state of Oregon, the state capitol, was we had to meet with our legislators that were assigned and talk about Wolf Bill. It was House Bill 4040 or something. No, Bill 4020 or forgot. It was a House bill, and to delist wolves from the state endangered species list. I was pissed. So I meet with my representatives, Val Hoyle, who's now our federal representative, and then Chris Edwards, my senator. And Val, probably shouldn't say this, but we're okay.
Okay.
Val explained to me why she needs to be neutral on the issue. But she didn't say this. But what happened was that she excused herself when that vote was held, which I will thank her for to this day. Chris Edwards was an absolute asshole about it. But anyways, long story short, I walk away from that experience telling Julie, I said, look, I was at the state capitol lobbying on behalf of wolves, and it was deplorable how little attention the environmental community got at the state capitol. You go to the state capitol during the legislative assembly, it's labor, unions, schools, homelessness, affordable housing, not environment, not wolves, definitely not plants, not trees. And I said, Julie, okay, one, I want to create a super PAC, and I want to fund that super PAC like hundreds of thousands of dollars. and funnel that into the Oregon political climate so that we can change it to a pro-environment course. And I said, not only that, but I also want to hire a staff lobbyist. Now, you know Julie. This took months of negotiating this with her, but she finally conceded. We created our own super PAC. We were funding the political climate in the state of Oregon $300,000 a year. And we were donating to environmentally friendly legislators, or we were supporting legislative bills that were our own, and all of that cost a tremendous amount of money. And we hired a staff lobbyist as well. Now, we're working on bills like aerial spraying, protecting wolves, banning chlorpyrifos. None of this had any economic benefit to Mountain Rose. Totally unheard of. No company, no for-profit company will create a super PAC and hire a lobbyist for something that doesn't have to do with their bottom line. So, of course, everybody at the state capitol is like, who's Mountain Rose?
Right.
What is their angle? What's going on? Jonathan, he's got an office at Mountain Rose and an office at the state capitol. He's like, look, the owner is an environmental activist. He doesn't care about money, and he's just personally passionate about these issues. And of course, all the legislators and everybody's like, nobody does that.
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck yeah, we do. Like, I care about wolves. I care about salmon. I care about our rivers. And that's why I moved to Oregon. That's why I'm here. So we rocked it, and that was in 2016, and we continued that for 3 years. We were engaged, and we were funneling hundreds of thousands of dollars into the political climate, and the political scene, and the legislature every year. 2019 happens. You remember? I come back as CEO. Now it's 2020, January, February, COVID, boom. Everything's shut down. And that's when I had to restructure the company. I had to save the company. And we stopped our super PAC. And you remember I let Jonathan go, our lobbyist. And I was focusing on the survival of the company. That was it. I even put my activism aside. I had to. I shelved it. Like, you know, for that 3-year period, if you look at Mountain Rose's social media, we weren't engaged heavily with environment. We didn't have that leisure. Like, I had to protect the mothership from sinking. And not only did I protect the mothership, she thrived. She thrived and grew exponentially in 19, 20, 21, and 22. We noticed a slight dip in 22, inflation, but very slight. We compared our dip to large companies like Amazon and Walmart, and their dip was like 8 to 17%. Ours was like 1 or 2. But we're on track for a resounding growth year in 2023. And now 2023 marks the year when we come back to environment, you know?
Awesome.
And I told you earlier, like I told Thomas, my executive vice president, and Cameron, I said, look, we've saved the mothership. She's on good footing. We need to make environment and sustainability our priority again. And they said, absolutely, we will take your directive and do that. And they are doing just that. So now we have the leisure, now that we're out of emergency triage mode, to protect and defend the environment. So I'm kind of dabbling with the political scene a little bit. I hung out with Jonathan.
Really?
Me and Jonathan, we spent...
Tell him I said hello. I love Jonathan.
I speak to Jonathan all the time. I hang out with him all the time, but we recently did Cascade Head on the coast about 3 weeks ago. So I went to Newport, stayed at Salishan Lodge, and me and Jonathan hung out for 2 days, and we talked about the current legislative assembly, the legislative climate. And I could tell I was beginning to itch a little bit. I was like, okay, I'm retired now. I think I might get into this, but just give me some time, Jonathan, to kind of think about it, because I need to figure out what I'm gonna do now that I'm retired. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think with some of your free time, you're gonna get that itch again, and that'd be great to have Jonathan back on board. But I will say, Mountain Rose Herbs, as with any company, sometimes falls on some sort of, I don't want to say controversy, but like sometimes the public doesn't understand what's happening behind the scenes. But I could truthfully say, having worked there for so long, like you were pointing out, who does that? Who invests in the super PAC and tries to change things at a legislative level by hiring a person like Jonathan? And I remember. Do you remember me going and serving tea at the state capitol for?
Yes, yes, I do.
You actually paid for me to go out there.
That's right. Oh my God, I totally forgot about that. That's right. Because we had a strong presence at the Capitol, and every legislator, both on the Senate side and the House side, knew who Mountain Rose was. So it was a good political gesture to send Mason to, give all these legislators who were trying to influence free tea, and also mainly to show them that we're a legit company.
Yeah.
And you remember, holy man, in 2016 and 17, I was giving almost weekly tours at Mountain Rose to senators and representatives to show them that we're big, we're successful, we're a major employer. Oh, and by the way, environment's really important to us because they even said most businesses don't come to them to talk about how important environment is. Even the environmental companies, I'm not going to mention any names, but some of the more progressive, forward-thinking, natural companies that are in Eugene, they don't. I tried getting them engaged, and it's not their thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you know that Jonathan is a really good basketball player?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yeah, and these days he's 46, so he's getting up there, but he's into Ironman triathlon stuff.
Cool.
Yeah,
Nice.
so like swimming, biking, running. He's pretty hardcore. But yes, I did.
Play with him again.
Yeah, and he's a tall dude. He's like 6'1", so
he's got skills. There was one more kind of big question I was going to ask. I was going to, and you could take as long or as little with it as possible, but I was going to ask you if you have any entrepreneur advice for the aspiring herbalist. Because I remember when you did that thing for the Herbal Academy, you had like a lot of really good answers, and maybe if you want to marinate on, otherwise we could just get straight into it.
I don't need to marinate. Unfortunately, the herbal community, yes, I do have a device, but it's that it's gotten so regulated that the barrier to entry is massive. I couldn't even imagine being becoming an owner of Mountain Rose now compared to 1999, 2000. It's a completely different environment. Back then, there were no GMPs. Matter of fact, the National Organic Program wasn't even in place. You could sell something as organic. It didn't have to be certified. It was a Wild West. We didn't even need lot numbers. We didn't need batch control procedures. We didn't even need to do laboratory testing. I mean, it was definitely the Wild West. So I feel sorry for a lot of budding herbal entrepreneurs. Not you, because you focus on entertainment and education.
Yeah, that's true.
So you don't have the same barriers. But people that are manufacturing products, they're fucked. The barrier to entry is so tremendous that my number one advice to them is don't worry about those regulations. Do not worry about them. Disregard them entirely. You'll catch up with them later. Trust me, the FDA doesn't know about you and the 27 2-ounce cans of salve you made. They're not going to care about you. You won't be on their radar for years. Develop your product. Develop your brand. Do it passionately. Figure out your distribution and how you're going to sell it. Grow your company as quickly as you possibly can. Then catch up with the regs. Catch up with the regs later. Mountain Rose, I probably shouldn't even say this, but I mean, hazmat, Prop 65, we knew about all that stuff. But I was like, we'll catch up with that later. Like, let's just grow the company right now. And Prop 65, hazmat, all that stuff, it eventually caught up with us. But I have no regrets. I've focused on growing the company first, growing us to the point where we had enough resources, had enough staff, and had enough money to allocate to this, because regulatory compliance, it is so expensive. It is wildly expensive, and I would probably say that we probably dedicate, at least with compliance, protecting our customers and protecting our company, we probably dedicate maybe 30 staff. If I was to count all the hours, you guys remember, even in marketing, you guys would spend a few hours saying, can we say this?
Yes.
Can we market it like this? Can we do this? So I consider that all part of that regulatory thing. So I would say that on average, we'd probably dedicate about 30 staff people per year to complying with this myriad of regulatory complexity. So that's the advice I give, is don't worry about the regs. Don't even read them. Don't even think about them. Just focus on your company, grow it right now, and worry about all that later.
That's great advice, because you could see how if you're just getting going, you have analysis paralysis. Like, where do I even begin?
Great.
You know what I mean?
Great phrase. Analysis paralysis.
Totally.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I hang out with the herbal community all the time, and I hear from so many people who are like, I wanted to create an extract company, but the regs scared me away. I'm like, no, why did you do that? It's scaring people away. They're like, okay, I want to manufacture, a healing line of formulas, but okay, these are I can't do this. And Man, be an outlaw. Just do it. Just do it, and you can worry about the complaints later.
I love that. All right, well, let's jump into the lightning round. What was your first cassette tape, and what was the first CD you ever bought?
Oh my God, these are great questions. No way. These are great questions. I'll never forget. Mason, did you buy cassette tapes?
I did. I was in first grade when I got my first cassette tape.
Do you remember what it was?
Yes.
What?
It was the Weird Al Yankovic box set.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. And the first CD I bought was Primus Frizzle Fry.
Frizzle
and
Fry,
I was
good
in
album.
third grade. So good. And to this day, I always say Primus is my favorite band. I don't listen to that much anymore, but yeah. So Weird Al and Primus.
Wow. Got good memory.
Yeah.
My first cassette was Motley Crue. Too Fast for Love, which was their first album, 1981. At the time when heavy metal was still really dangerous, very dangerous. Like they had a pentagram on their album cover, and that was my first cassette. Yeah. The first album I ever bought was an anarchist punk band called Apple, and Apple was APPLE, and it stood for autonomy, peace, pacifism, liberty, and equality.
Wow.
So that just goes to show how the kind of music I was listening
Sure.
to. And that was my first CD. And that was probably, I hated CDs. And like cell phones.
Yeah.
I was like, I would wait 10 or 15 years before I would kind of get into the technology because I liked cassettes and I hated the new technology. It was probably right around shortly before I started Mountain Rose and I bought that CD.
Okay.
So I was probably in my mid-20s
Wow.
when I bought that CD. Yeah.
We actually just got a cassette player for our house, and it's really fun to kind of have that tangibility. I don't know what it is, but it's also the nostalgia of it all because I loved tapes when I was a kid.
Oh, so I still love them now because they're so compact.
Yeah.
And it was like 10 years. I'm still sitting on all my punk cassettes.
Yeah.
And it was like maybe, I don't know, like 8 or 9 years ago, I was trying to find a cassette player. And I even contacted Bradford's Home Entertainment here, and they said, sadly, nobody's making them anymore.
Yeah.
But there's this revival now for old mediums like vinyl and cassettes. But yeah, I'm still sitting on all my old cassettes.
Our cassette player, I think, is from the 70s that we bought
It's a
on
vintage.
Craigslist. Yeah.
Oh, no way.
Yeah,
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And there's a whole culture around it. It's just really interesting.
Wow.
I got kind of into it. What's the plant you're most looking forward to seeing bloom in the Northwest this spring?
That is a lovely question. That's an easy one.
Yeah.
Snow queens, man. Snow queens or oak toothwort. And the reason why is because they bloom in sometimes February and March. And when you live in Oregon, from October until March, there's no color. And that is the first color you see.
Yeah.
So for me, I get really excited because it's the onset of spring.
A harbinger of spring, as Stephen Yeager
A
said.
harbinger of spring. But I mean, ultimately, I get even more excited when I see my first turkey vulture. Because nobody knows this, but in the Northwest, they're migratory. They leave Oregon in October because it's too cold for them. They go to South America. They don't come back until February or March. So when I see my first turkey vulture, I'm like, springtime's here. This is beautiful. But snow queens and oak toothwort, but the one I get the most excited about would probably be calypso orchids.
Oh, yeah.
That's my favorite flower. It's absolutely beautiful.
Do you have a tattoo of one?
I do.
Do you really? I don't know if I knew that. Maybe it's a newer one. Yeah, here we go. Show and tell.
I mean, it's part of my overall back.
Oh, yeah. That's righteous.
Yeah.
Did we see that one? I don't think, yeah.
My whole back is tattooed.
I love it.
I'm surprised I didn't show you a picture of
Maybe
it.
you did, yeah.
Oh, it's kick-ass.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, it's Pacific Northwest inspired. So it's 4 skulls of my favorite apex predators.
Okay, now I remember
Skull
that part,
of a bear, lynx, bobcat, cougar, but it has Diamond Peak in the background. It has Sitka spruce. It has fiddlehead fern. It's just Northwest nature inspired back tattoo.
Maybe I must have known that because I asked about it.
Yeah.
So there you go.
And I didn't want the calypso orchid in there, but my tattoo artist was like, you know what? I think it'd be really cool to put the calypso orchid on the top of the skull of the bobcat. And I was like, okay, yeah, go for
Which
it.
also kind of looks like a face too.
Yes.
So I love the calypso. Oh, Little House on the Prairie or the Waltons?
God, these are such good questions.
This was a leading one.
Oh my God, these are great questions. Okay, that one is hard for. No, it's easy, but it's hard.
I know the answer, I think.
It's Little House on the Prairie.
Oh shit, I don't know the answer.
Yeah, Little House on the Prairie. But okay, I have both.
Yeah.
Complete box set DVD. I have watched all. Shit, I think there's like 90 discs to Little House on the Prairie. That thing aired for like 10 or 15 years. Same with the Waltons. I have both. I appreciate both, but I prefer Little House on the Prairie. Now, Little House on the Prairie is an anarchy story. Think about this. This is really kick-ass. Nobody really thinks about this. In Little House on the Prairie, there is not once the appearance of a police officer, a barrister or a lawyer, or a judge. Everything is taken care of in the community. I mean, there's even there's episodes where outlaws come into the town. They don't call the police. They deal with it themselves. Pa will deal with it himself.
Whoa.
He'll negotiate down. There's an episode with, not Wyatt Earp, but Jesse James. And Jesse James kidnaps Mary. And there, it was like the kidnap episode. They didn't call the police. You know, Pa went in and tried to talk Jesse James down. They didn't even mention calling the police. But it was also very cooperative. Not too many people understand anarchist philosophy, but anarchist philosophy is very cooperative. Everybody provides for everybody else. See, Little House on the Prairie, all the neighbors take care of themselves. They all farm for themselves. They all help each other out. Nobody's out to get each other. It's like an anarchist utopian dream. And nobody really thinks about that. They even deal with really shitty people as civilly as they possibly can, like Nellie, you know. And but I love the Waltons as well. But the Waltons has lots of religious overtones.
Oh, okay.
Lots.
Yeah.
Grandma is very religious.
Okay.
Grandpa, he's a hoot. But they're a very religious family. There's almost a sense of like Puritanism, and there's too much moralism in the Waltons. They try too hard. But the other thing I don't like about the Waltons compared to Little House on the Prairie is the production quality and the lighting is really terrible. If you watch the Waltons now, you'll see loads of shadows.
Okay.
Because the lighting's all off, and the production quality was pretty bad. But Little House on the Prairie. Totally.
All right. Yeah. For some reason, I'm misremembering, but I remember when I first started Mountain Rose Herbs, you and a coworker got in a long discussion about that.
It was probably Erin.
Yeah, it was.
And I remember Erin. She's so sweet. She bought me. She went somewhere and she saw a vintage lunch pail that had the original thermos. That was Little House on the Prairie, and she bought it for me, and I still have it.
That's badass. What is your current favorite herbal ally for general health?
Current favorite. I must admit that these days, well, lately I've been taking a lot of echinacea because I've been traveling a lot. Echinacea and elder because of the amount of plane trips that I'm on, human exposure that I mentioned to you earlier that I don't want much on the camera. But daily would be a mix of reishi, chaga, and maitake.
Nice.
General tonic, cleansing, great for the immune system. But the other go-to would probably be like schizandra, astragalus, ashwagandha, depending on my mood. So nice adaptogens.
Yeah, good answer. What's the favorite sports card or baseball card that you've ever owned?
God, Mason, these are such thoughtful questions. Interesting.
One of your favorites, if it's hard to choose.
No, it was I forgot the name of the baseball player, but it was a T206 card. And I got it when I was, I think, 9 or 10. Now, a T206, it was a tobacco T206. That's what the T stood for. And they were about that tall, and they were about that wide. And they were tobacco cards that were put in tobacco at the turn of the century from like 1900 to like about 1915. So like Bull Durham, you know, and it was an incentive to buy the tobacco. And they were really cool. They were like chromolithographs, you know, because this is like 1910, 1915. Right. This is like the foundation of modern baseball cards. But I remember getting it, looking at it, going, wow, this is so old and so cool. And I kind of gravitated towards old things anyways. And I remember I would just look at that card for like minutes and just stare at it and go, you are so cool and so old. I love you. But the most valuable baseball card in the world, actually, I think it just recently got beaten by some. It's called I think it's called the T206 Honus Wagner. So Honus Wagner was a Hall of Fame. I was going to say a pitcher. He wasn't a pitcher, but anyways, he was strongly against smoking cigarettes. He wasn't a cigarette smoker at the time, which was unheard of because every baseball player in 1908 smoked cigarettes. He didn't. When he found out that the tobacco company was releasing his image and putting it in cigarette or tobacco pouches, he contacted the company and said, absolutely not, you cannot do that. You need to stop right now. So as a result, there were only a handful printed. And they go for millions. I think most recently was like $10 or $15 million for the T206 Hans
Wow.
Wagner. Yeah.
You didn't have that one, but
Oh, hell no.
Yeah.
No, beyond, yeah.
But it was a T.
It was a T206
Yeah.
card. It was part of
Wow.
that. I think it was Piedmont
Okay.
Tobacco.
Okay.
And it was a card from that series.
Wow.
And my second favorite card was a 1982 Topps Cal Ripken rookie card.
Yeah, wow.
Because Cal Ripken was my favorite baseball
Yeah.
player, and it was his rookie card. And I'll never forget this. I get into things for the weirdest reasons because I didn't like baseball then.
Right.
I still don't now. But I used to have a baseball card store.
Yeah.
I had a sports memorabilia shop. People would come into my store. They'd want to talk about sports. I'm like, oh my god.
I'm in the wrong business.
I'm in the wrong business. But I loved collecting this stuff. But I remember the reason why I fell in love with Cal Ripken because I never saw him play. Mm-hmm. And this was 1983.
Yeah.
So I'm in the third grade,
Yeah.
and I collect baseball cards because that's what every kid does. And I remember seeing the Cal Ripken rookie card and going, wow, you have the most beautiful eyes. and that's why I fell in love with him. And he became my favorite baseball player because if you look at Cal Ripken right now, he has like ice blue eyes.
Yeah,
His
I can
eyes
picture that.
they're intense.
Yeah.
But I also I grew up and realized he was a really good baseball player.
Yeah.
But most importantly, I could ride my bike to Anaheim Stadium.
Mm-hmm.
And I would go to Anaheim Stadium every night when what do they call it when a team from out of the area comes in? Visiting team.
Or away?
Yeah, away team. Yeah, so whenever the away team would come, I would get all the baseball cards of the away team. And I would put them in my backpack, ride my bike, and back then, at the end of the game, all of the away team would come out of a door and the kids would get autographs. Oh, they don't do this now. They have like secret shuttles underground and there's no way. But this was, back then, the away team, you had to sign to get out of there.
Right.
There was no way you could not get through that crowd without signing. So I've met them all. I met Reggie Jackson, Dave Winfield, Ricky Henderson, Jose Canseco, Pete Rose. Met them all.
Wow.
They're all most of them are dicks.
Yeah.
They really are. No, they're assholes. Like Jose Canseco and Reggie Jackson, fuck those guys. They were pushing little kids and almost pushing them to the ground. They were so rude.
Wow.
The best baseball player, not because I like him, Cal Ripken.
Oh, just a nice guy.
Dude, he would stay there for, I remember he stayed there for 3.5 hours.
Oh my gosh.
Because he wanted to make sure every kid got a signature from him. And of course, there were some kids like me that was like, I'd get a signature, I'd go back, grab another card, I'd get a second one. And I think I went to Cal Ripken like 6 or 7 times. And then he looked at, he signed it, and then he went,
Shawn,
and I'm like, I was like, that's the last one, I promise. And I'm like 9 years old. I'm like, that's the last one, I promise. But Cal Ripken was cool.
Yeah.
He was such a nice guy. And he wouldn't try to barrel through the kids. He would always look at the kids. Most people like just sign it and throw it at the kids. Cal Ripken would be very methodical, and he'd hand it to him softly, and then he'd go to the next kid, and he wouldn't move.
Yeah.
He would just stay still and take everything. See, the other players, they would just sign while they're walking, just to get through him as quickly as possible. Not Cal Ripken. He was awesome.
I don't know too much about baseball, but was he the Iron Man? Was he the person with all the games played in a row?
Yeah, he broke a record. I say this like I know the sport.
Yeah,
I
right.
don't. I don't
You know
watch
stats and random stuff.
I don't even know stats.
Okay.
I really don't. Like, I still don't know what a batting average is. I don't know. I think high is good.
Okay.
You right?
Yeah. So.
I know home runs and stuff like that, but he broke a record for the most consecutive games played.
Yeah.
So he had no sick days, basically.
Right. Yeah.
And I think this spanned like 18, I don't know, it was 16, 17, 18 years. He played the sport, and he was there every single day.
He's the people's champ.
Yep.
So, Shawn, tell us your opinions on the state of the herbal industry, because there appears to be a lot less family-run herbal businesses.
Super passionate about that. Super passionate about that. Yeah, not too many people know this, but there are very few independently owned organic herbal products companies. So when you think about the herbal industry, Mountain Rose, we're kind of not part of the herbal industry. We're part of the organic herbal products industry. Traditional medicinals, Gaia, Herb Farm, Pacific Botanicals, even Star West, Frontier, we're part of that small niche group.
Yeah.
So in the organic herbal products industry, there's only now, there used to be 3, there's only 2 that are independently owned. All of them, all of those names that I mentioned, they've all been acquired. Either through private equity firms or private investors, all of them, except for 2, have been acquired. Even traditional medicinals just recently had, I think, either a majority, but a large stake in their company acquired by an investment firm. But last year I was able to say there's 3 companies, Traditional Medicinals, Mountain Rose, and Oregon's Wild Harvest. Those are the last 3 remaining organic herbal products companies that are independently owned. But now Traditional Medicinals off the list. So now it's just Oregon's Wild Harvest, Mountain Rose Herbs. We remain the only family or independently owned herbal products companies. And recently, I'm not going to mention the name of the company, but I am going to mention how much they were acquired for. XX Herbal Company was acquired for $98 million. So XX Herbal Company makes just shy of 50% what we make in annual sales. So this is, somebody paid $98 million for a company that's about half the size of Mountain Rose. And Cameron, she's CPA, now my CEO, she comes to me and she says, Shawn, if we were to apply the same business evaluation formula to Mountain Rose, that means you could sell the company for $142 to $147 million. For curiosity and job security, I just need to know, would you take it? I went, nope, absolutely not. Absolutely. And I realized then that I needed to make a promise to my customers and my employees that I would not even take $150 million to sell Mountain Rose. It'd be like selling my own child.
Yeah.
Could you sell Amelia for $150 million?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. And I feel the same way with Mountain Rose. I would never sell the company. The plan is I'm going to continue to lead it and direct it until old age. And then once I am old age, being 70s or 80s, I'll look at either an ESOP program, employee stock option, where my employees could buy ownership of the company, or I might look at putting the company into a benefit trust like Patagonia did. But I would never sell the company. And I think you remember in previous journals, I made promises to my customers that we would remain independently owned and that we would never sell out. Okay, what's your question?
I love that. That's great. All right, last of the rapid fire round. If you were to live in any state besides Oregon, which one would it be?
California. Yeah, it'd be California.
Weather.
That's where I'm from.
Yeah, right.
California, ecologically, it's really diverse, like Oregon.
Yeah.
But I miss California. I love California, and yeah, the weather's amazing. But if it wasn't California, lately I've been leaning towards Savannah, Georgia. I mentioned that to you earlier. I love Savannah. Midnight in the Garden of Evil is what put that city on the map for me. And there's just a certain beauty and quaintness to Savannah. And I'm going to go there in the next month or 2 to kind of see, okay, could you possibly live in Savannah? Because I could live anywhere I want right now.
Yeah.
I'm retired. And I don't need to check in every week. I only do it because I have time, but I don't need to.
Yeah.
And part of that road trip is to determine whether or not, do I want to live in California? And I'm going to check out all the different communities in California. But wherever I live, we've got to have sunshine.
Understood.
Oh, man. God.
Yeah. I think Savannah, Georgia would be pretty amazing. Well, I didn't tell you we were going to do this, but I'm going to draw a random card from here, and there's a question. It's not a tarot deck or anything. Don't worry.
Can I see some
Yeah,
circles?
of course. Yeah.
These are cool.
Yeah. Let's get deep.
Where did you get these from?
Target.
And is it a game? Or
Yeah,
is it
it's kind of a game. Basically, it's just to get to know your friends better. And so I've been doing this the past few episodes, and we just kind of ask a random question.
You know what? It's amazing. Because not too many people realize the importance of asking questions. Because we all love to be asked questions.
Yeah.
Who doesn't? Because that means that somebody, and Seven Song, I think he asked the best questions.
Oh, yeah.
He goes really deep.
Yeah.
But I caught him.
Yeah.
He slipped big time at Rootstock because he asked me the same question 3 times in a 4-day period. And at the 3rd time I said, look, Seven Song, you've already asked me that question twice, and I give you a very thorough and honest answer. Memory retention, man. Memory retention.
That's good. All right. Oh, Well, maybe we've already asked this. When you were a kid, what did you think you were going to be when you grew up?
Stockbroker.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, I was 8 years old,
Yeah.
and I knew I was going to be a stockbroker. And right now, my elementary school yearbook, it has all these 8-year-olds, 7-year-olds, and 8-year-olds. And next to their picture, what do you want to be? Fireman, policeman, nurse, crossing guard, fireman, policeman, school teacher, crossing guard. And then you get down to Shawn, stockbroker. I had no idea what being a stockbroker was. All I knew was that I watched Trading Places with Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy. Dan Aykroyd had lots of money and he was a stockbroker. And I realized at 8, I was like, okay, granted, don't judge, but at the time, I didn't have values.
Yeah, sure.
And I was like, I want money, and I want to be that guy. And I guess being that guy means that I have to be a stockbroker.
Sure.
And I asked my parents, I said, what's a stockbroker?
Yeah.
And they didn't know. And they said, we think it's selling shares of a company, buying and selling shares of a company. Yeah. And I asked them, well, how do you do that? And they went, we have no idea. But I thought I was going to be a stockbroker. And
No, well, yeah, and the whole don't judge thing, you ended up becoming a punk rock kid, years later.
God bless punk rock.
So the rules of the game, I have to answer it as well. And I thought I was going to be an artist or a graphic artist of some sort.
I could totally see that in the Mason.
And I actually took graphic arts in high school, and I was hell-bent on it. And then I found out the severity of my color blindness, and it kind of deterred me. But to be honest, there's probably colorblind graphic artists.
You know what? You might have told me about the color blindness, but you're throwing me off right now because I'm going to say I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah. So
with what colors?
Red and green is my...
Red and green?
Yeah, is my thing. Yeah.
So the cabinets in my kitchen, do you know what color they are?
They're red.
Okay.
Yeah, in fact, Amanda and I actually talked about it, but I can see it. It's really just depends on
the size.
Exactly. There's that, and then the tone, but those are red.
Wow.
Yeah.
So interesting.
But
color blindness always just fascinates me. Like,
I know.
How does that work?
It's weird.
What does your world look like?
Yeah.
And
it's not as good as yours. I mean, I can tell you that much. Like, you're seeing it much more in depth than what I do, but I do want to get those colorblind glasses someday. So
yeah. Oh, I didn't even know they had them.
Yeah.
So when you're looking at, say, a firecracker penstemon, and the plant is green and the flower is red, what do you see?
Oh yeah, sometimes it just kind of blurs together. Like, it's a bummer. Oh, I actually bringing up the Calypso orchid. Ooh. I remember in Columbine School of Botanical Studies when we did this drill where we were supposed to spot all the Calypsos, and everyone in the class was able to spot like 20, 30 of them. I could maybe pick out one.
Oh no.
Yeah, so I have to be like up close to look at it. Otherwise it just kind of blurs together.
Bummer.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Bummer. Okay, so it kind of spills over to the pink hue as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So
damn.
Yeah, but we all have our cross to bear. So.
Yeah, interesting, huh?
There you go. Well,
this is awesome.
Yeah,
actually.
you want to do another one?
I do. Yeah. I'm going to ask you one. But this is great for dating as well.
Oh, well, we actually have a couples edition.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it gets real raunchy.
Yeah. Oh, on a first date, that's bad. After you get in an established relationship, no problem. But for like first, second, third dates, this is awesome because what a great way to break the ice.
Totally.
When I was part of the dating scene, I fucking ruled. I'm not gonna, but like I was a great conversationalist.
Yeah, sure.
I wasn't awkward. Yeah. But virtually everybody I dated, even Deanne, they were so awkward. Yeah. And I was working so hard to get these people comfortable. Yeah. Having something like this would have been indispensable.
Yeah, Mountain Road should carry those cards.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to pick one randomly.
All right.
Okay.
In person is so much better.
No, that's a dumb one. Do you consider yourself to be more of an extrovert?
Oh, that we should get rid of that one actually.
Yeah,
because it's a one-word answer.
Oh, that's dumb too. I'm just gonna choose one.
Yeah, you just choose one. Yeah. I'm on the extrovert spectrum, but there's introvert tendencies.
Oh, this is actually a good one. What is a random thing you know a lot about?
Oh.
Because herbs isn't random.
Yeah, no, it's not. Especially the context of this show. I know an absurd amount of the National Basketball Association. I know a lot about NBA.
I could believe that.
Yeah, like, yeah. So, and a lot of people might not expect that from me, but for whatever reason, as a child, I was very drawn into the sport. It was kind of my gateway into like a lot of people. I remember, I'll never forget like listening to people talk about like say dance moves and stuff like that. That's kind of how I've always understood basketball. I've always seen it as like this artistic expression of how you can express yourself via sport. And so that's how I've always thought about it. And for whatever reason, the NBA, I know it's another like massive industry and there's a lot of capitalism that goes into it, but I'm so obsessed with like say self-improvement, and I tend to be sometimes I lean on this serious side. Sports and basketball specifically for me has been like this escapism where some people are into movies or this or that. I like the story of say of basketball and the history of basketball, so it allows me to kind of just turn my brain off and actually consume this medium that's not super serious, if that makes sense. You know, like I don't take it seriously. I don't get like pissed off if say my team loses or whatever like that, but I just like the story arc of say specific players, teams over the course of decades. And that's all it is to me. It's just pure enjoyment, and just by the sheer fact of doing that, I've accumulated a lot of pointless knowledge about NBA.
No, actually, that is a beautiful answer.
Yeah.
And that's an answer nobody could argue.
Yeah.
You can't argue with that at all. It's kind of like, as you know, I'm a vegetarian. And people, when I tell them I'm a vegetarian, they get really prickly and they get very defensive. And I'm like, look, I'm not that kind of vegetarian. You know, I'm not going to argue with you the fact that we either did or did not evolve with canines, or I'm not going to argue with you about whether or not our stomach can process this stuff.
Sure.
And it's ecologically wrong. I don't care. Just tell me you like meat.
Yeah.
Just tell me you love meat. It tastes good. It makes you feel good, because I can't fucking argue with that. But once you start saying we have evolved to eat meat, we need meat, I'm like, just don't go there.
Yeah.
Just tell me you like fucking meat, and like argument's over. But that's a beautiful argument. I never really understood college football. People freak the fuck out about college football more than professional.
Yeah, true.
And I couldn't figure out why people were so passionate about college football. Well, my mom is, so I had to ask her. And I said, Mom, why are you so passionate? She gave me the best answer.
Yeah.
She said, well, you know, with the professionals, they make $20 million a year.
Yeah.
They don't need to play. They're not passionate. They're not working towards upward mobility.
Yeah.
They don't have the same passion on the field. These young college kids, they're not making nothing. And they want to make the millions. So they are out there and they're playing their hearts out because they want to get to the top. I went,
That's a good explanation.
I get it, right on. And yeah, you explained it beautifully.
Thank you.
I get it.
Who's your mom's team?
Ducks. Ducks, believe it or not, because
Really?
and the Razorbacks are Arkansas.
Oh yeah,
because she lived in Arkansas.
Oh, okay.
So it was, but she also likes the Michigan Huskies.
No,
Who's in
Michigan is Michigan State and Michigan shit. I don't know.
I don't know either.
All right, so she's got a few teams.
Yeah. Because she lived in Michigan for a while. She lived in Arkansas for a while. And even 20, 30 years ago, she lived in Oregon. So, but she gravitates towards the Ducks a little bit.
Pre-call, you were telling us about Palm Springs, and I just gotta say, if you've never been to Eureka Springs, Arkansas, that is a righteous community and a beautiful little town. I think that's maybe a population of 2,000 or 3,000.
Wait, did you guys do a video on it?
Yes,
I watched it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
Nice.
I don't know why I watched that particular video, but I just stumbled on it.
That was our travel.
Yeah,
across the
no, I
country.
watched it. It was awesome. You were
Sweet.
perched kind of
slightly
above the town.
We were, totally.
Yeah,
That's a cool community.
It looks cool.
You said that about the Razorbacks, and I was like, oh yeah, we saw a bunch of Razorback stuff there. So, but well, you got to answer too. So, what's something you know a lot about?
Wildlife biology. Oh yeah, I could explain migration patterns. I can explain breeding patterns of numerous species. Yeah. And I remember we were having a fundraiser for some organization here, and I don't know if you ever met him, but his name was Todd. He used to be the manager of Falling Sky.
Oh yeah, I know Todd. Yeah,
Todd.
Totally. I went
Cool,
to high
dude.
school with him. Yeah.
Oh, his wife is our photographer, Felicia.
Totally,
Yep.
yeah.
His parents came to a fundraiser that I was having. And I don't know why I'm holding on to this one. It's just that I could hold my own against professionals. So anyways, Todd's dad is a bat biologist, a professional.
Wow, I never knew.
And I was talking about bat habitat in my barn, and I was giving him the 3 species that I have and talking about, the patterns that I've noticed. And I said, yeah, I got the little brown bat, I have the California bat, and then I have the sharp-eared bat. And he said, California bat? He said, yeah, they're migratory. They're not here in the winter. I went, oh, no, they're here in the winter. He said, I'm a bat biologist. They're just not here in the winter. I went, oh, okay. Okay. So then the next day, Deanna was there, and I was telling her about this argument that I was having. I was like, dude, I said, I see these guys. I went to where I knew there would be the California bat, the California brown bat, and I opened one of the shutters and boom, took a picture, shut it, and this was like December, January, and then I sent it to him and said, told you, and he went,
Photoshopped.
all right, no, he said, no, yeah, okay, I believe you now, but yeah, when you live with wildlife, you understand the patterns and so wildlife biology. I must admit, I've been getting really rusty. Because Mountain Rose, the last 3 or 4 years, I just have not. There was a time when I was consuming 3 or 4 books a week on biology, and it was really exciting to me. Salmon, in particular, I was mostly passionate about salmon and wolves. But yeah, I could understand, how estrus or the would work with coyotes, like the premenstrual cycles, and how it would work and how it would agitate males and when it would occur and what would happen. And I would totally geek out about that kind of stuff. And it sucks because nobody really wants to hear about that. So I can't really share it with anybody. I was dating Deanna. I was like, do you understand the estrus cycles of the female coyote during the November months? And she's like, the fuck are you talking about?
Well, I think it's high time Shawn Donnille started a YouTube channel just to discuss what the world is passion.
Yeah. Yep, indeed.
I love it.
Indeed.
Well, very cool.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, I guess one more question, and then it's just kind of tie a bow on everything, but just curious what's next for Shawn and Mountain Rose Herbs.
Wow, thanks for asking that question, Mason. I don't know. Mountain Rose will continue doing what it's doing, but do it even better.
Yeah.
Because Cameron Stearns, she's my new CEO. I stepped back in January. I'm still the owner, and I'm still the president, so I still call the shots, and I still lead the company in the direction that I want it to be led in. Yeah. But Cameron Stearns, she's my CEO, and then Thomas Dick is my executive vice president. And they are doing such an exceptionally good job that I even told them recently they're leading the company in a better direction than I think either I did or Julie and Shawn did. So Mountain Rose, they're going to do amazing things. There's no doubt about that. As for myself, I'm lost, man. I'm really lost. I'm confused. I don't know. This would be the 3rd time that I've retired, so I know I'm going to come to terms with it. But the last 3 years, getting Mountain Rose through COVID, I told you this before, but that was like dog years. That was 21 years. The last 3 years felt like 21 years. It visibly aged me. Yeah. It became and I'm sure you've noticed it. Like it visibly aged me. Yeah. And it stressed me out. And that 3 year, 19, 20, 21, and 22, I went on maybe 3 hikes. Yeah. I read maybe 2 books. Yeah. Hardly vacationed. Matter of fact, there was a 2-year period where I didn't travel at all. I gave my entire being, my entire essence, all of my pleasure to Mountain Rose Herbs. And now that I've retired, I'm like, who am I? Like, what am I passionate about? Because I've had no passion for 3 years other than Mountain Rose. Where do I go now? So now I'm trying to find what I'm passionate about. I got wildlife biology and ecology and environmental activism. Done that. Need something new. And I'm trying to find the new, and that's the whole point of this road trip to California is be alone long enough to try to figure out, okay, where is your new passion? And it's part of our human DNA to have a goal, to like achieve something. Well, what happens when you achieve everything? Yeah. Like, where do you go from there? Yeah. And I really have. I have everything I need. I've achieved so much. It's like, fuck, what's the next big thing? Because it doesn't get any bigger than Mountain Rose. Yeah. It doesn't get any bigger in my life. Yeah. Like, fuck, what is bigger than all that? And because we're goal oriented, we need to reach for the next big thing. And for me, it's like, fuck. Just to
tie it back or bring it back to NBA, Michael Jordan retired 3 times too. Just throwing that out there. So.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right.
But besides that, I think you're right. I think it comes down to the next goal. I have full faith in you and your capability to find your next goal because you've always kind of done that. It makes sense that you're feeling this way. I think it's just a matter of taking time with yourself and I think you're doing the best thing you can do. You're going to go on a solo trip for 3 weeks, revisit your homeland of California, and you're going to hang out with some of your favorite trees. Tell us what's that one tree you were?
Monterey Bay Cypress.
Monterey Bay Cypress. You're going to hang out with those trees. Joshua tree, which I know isn't actually technically a tree, but regardless, I think you are going to find something, but don't put pressure on yourself to do that. It's going to come. It's just a matter of time, and I suspect it'll probably be something around biology or sustainability or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I know you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. It's one of those things where you can't go out and find it.
Yeah.
Because I'm not. It's going to have to happen by accident.
Yeah.
But going on this solo trip, I'm hoping to provide a medium that allows me to open up all transmitters so that way it happens.
Well put.
I'm not going out there trying to find something. I'm just going out there to open my mind, open those transmitters, and see if something lands. Because all the great things in my life were a complete accident. Anarchism, activism, mountain rose, ecology, I mean, everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll see. But yeah, I am really confused right now to the point where it's like, it's bordering, but we talked about depression earlier.
Yeah, sure.
Because of the weather.
Yeah.
It's bordering on depression. Like, I'm built to do great things. I can't just hang out at this big old house by myself and drink beer all day.
Well, you're
indeed.
a great person, great friend, and really appreciate you coming on and telling us your story and your journey. And I'm super excited to see what the next chapter is for you.
Indeed. Yeah. Have you ever held a human skull before?
No.
I've got several. You want to hold one?
Yes, I do. See you later.